Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with my monthly designer challenge video. The theme this month is treasure, and I wanted to teach a fun adaptation of our Upsy Daisy Pop-up die to be able to animate our brand new treasure chest die. And I decorated mine as a congratulatory card. It would be perfect for graduation. I'll start first with the base of my treasure chest. So I have the trim piece and I use adhesive around the perimeter and then glue that to the solid base. And then in the center section, I want to take a paper piercer or a toothpick or something that's round so that I can roll that cardstock over the top of that, creating like a little half circle in it for when I glue it down. I'll be able to slide the lock and the key through that later. The lid also has a trim piece, and normally the top edge of the lid is hinged, so you fold that tab over. But I'm not going to hinge this one. So instead I cut another base trim piece just to get the straight section so that I could trim out the top edge of the lid as well. Then I'll just use my scissors to trim that to fit. I'm going to add a couple rows of gold coins to the base of the treasure chest. So I've done metallic gold for the first layer, and then I've done glitter gold for the second layer. Okay, so I will set that aside so that the glue can dry. I want to make a clear front A2 landscape card. So I'm going to start with a piece of cardstock, 7 3/4 by 4 1/4, and then I'm going to make 3 3/4 inch little sections on the left side by scoring at 3/4 inch, 1.5 inches, and 2 1/4 inches. And that will leave me 5 1/2 on the long section. The inside of the card will be the big panel and then the first little small panel next to it. So I will decorate both of those with pattern paper, and I just cut that pattern paper a little bit smaller than each panel. On the plastic piece for the front of the card, I've basically cut that to the card size, which is 4 1/4, but then rather than go the full 5 1/2, I came back to about 5 1/4 so that it wouldn't bunch in the fold. Okay, speaking of folds, I am now going to work the folds in my 3 panels so that they just go back and forth. So I'm basically just accordion folding that and then using a bone folder to make sure that I get a crisp fold. I find that whenever I'm working with clear materials, I think a strong dry adhesive is the best bet. So I'm using red line or tacky tape in those sections that are going to sandwich around the plastic. So adding the plastic front, I just make sure that the right edges are aligned before I sink the left edge of the plastic into that first line of tape. Then I can peel up the liner on the other tape, fold it over, and press it to the plastic. So that's going to sandwich the plastic in that section so that you don't see any of the adhesive. On the left side of the card, I want to seal shut that little area between the sections. So for that, it's paper to paper. I can go ahead and use glue. I'll just clip that and set it aside to dry. The Upsy Daisy Pop-up die includes 2 matching platforms. They're mirror image from each other. So the one I'm going to use for today's technique has the triangle pointed towards the right if I'm looking at the blade side, or towards the left if I'm looking at the back of the die. Now I'm using a little bit thicker cardstock for this technique. So this is 100-pound cardstock. And then what I like to do is before taking the paper out of the die, I'll use a pen and just mark an M through the triangle and then a V at the tapered tab at the base. That's going to help me remember how to fold this piece. But for now I need to cut a second one because I'll need 2 for this technique. Okay, what the M and the V do is remind you which way to fold the folds. So in this section where the triangle is, there are 2 folds, and M means mountain. So they should both be mountain folds, which means you're folding away from yourself. Then along the long section, V means valley. So there are 4 folds and they should all be folded towards yourself, which is a valley fold. So what's going to happen after you've worked those 4 valley folds along that long section is you will have made a little box. So if the tapered tab gets attached to this side, you'll see that there's a little box out on that end of the platform. My favorite glue for pop-up cards is LINECO Neutral pH Adhesive. I use it in my fine tip bottle. We do sell both of those items on our website. You can flatten that piece to get the glue attached and then just work the folds, and you'll see that there's that little box, and then you have the triangle section out here. Speedy quick, I'm just going to do the exact same thing with the second platform. So mountains on the triangle side, valley on the long side, a little bit of glue in the tapered tab to attach it to the other side. That creates that little box out on that side of the platform. And now I am ready to attach these inside the card. The platforms are identical, so it does not matter which one I start with, but I want to coat the M triangle with adhesive. So you can see the adhesive is on the side where I've drawn the M, and then I want that long side of the triangle to just line up with the fold of the card, and I am on the left side of the fold. I'm keeping the triangle in the card, but I am pretty close to the top. I like glue for this so that I have a chance to kind of wiggle it and make sure that it's straight and lined up right with the fold of the card. In the M section, there are two folds, right? So it's not the first one next to the triangle that I want to fold, it's the second one, and that's going to bring the box over and have it sit like this in the flat position. So then what I need is I just need some adhesive in that little short panel of the box to attach it to the other side. And the best way to do this is definitely to close the card against the exposed adhesive. So you always attach the Upsy Daisy in the closed position so that you get good placement. So one thing about using glue is that patience is key to make sure that that glue's set up. What I will often do is as I open it the first time, I'll just throw a pen or something in there and make sure that the base of the box has actually adhered and the glue has set up so that it doesn't just rip the paper and pull it back off of there again. But this looks great, so now I can just kind of work the folds, make sure that it's coming up into a nice position, and that is my completed little Upsy Daisy platform. I've installed this one in the usual manner. Okay, my second Upsy Daisy platform is actually going to attach to the first, and I'm going to treat the base of the first platform as though it were my card fold for the second one. So the first thing I'm doing is just looking and seeing that my M triangle is actually too wide. It's not going to fit. There's going to be a bit of it sticking beyond the platform. So I'm going to snip that off. And then from here, I'm going to treat it just as though I was building this in a card fold, but my card fold is actually the base of the first platform. So I put my adhesive all over my M triangle, then I'm going to line that up and then lift it up so that it actually attaches to the first platform. Okay, just like with the first platform, it's the second diagonal fold that brings the box over into the flat position. And then I just need to lay that flat just as though I were working on a card instead of up a platform. And then I'm going to add the adhesive to the little small panel on the box. And now it gets a little fiddly because I have to figure out how to close this card, leaving everything flat so that it will attach to the card itself. Okay, so as I open up this card, you're going to see what happens. The first Upsy Daisy platform raises up high in its usual position. And then the second one, which is attached to the first one, isn't going to raise as high because the fold doesn't open as far. So you get two different heights to those platforms. That's a very fun generic technique. I'm going to use it for a treasure chest. You would not have to use this for a treasure chest. You could definitely do something different with it. But for this technique, which is clear front, and I want the treasure chest to be in the proper position in the closed position, then I need to use the closed position to decide where the pieces are going to go. And on the base, I want to make sure that the left side doesn't get into the mechanism in the closed position. So that's going to set my location. The adhesive is going to go on the lower platform on that small panel. Then I slide the base of the treasure chest in and just make sure it's straight. And then I like the placement and then just give it a good press against that exposed adhesive to attach it. And just being patient because it is glue, I want to make sure that I have a good attachment on that treasure chest before I open the card up. But then when I open it, it's going to lift that treasure chest up. You can see it's attached there to that lower platform. Just opening and closing that card a couple times to make sure that everything is operating smoothly. And then to add the lid for the treasure chest, I want to once again do that with the card laying flat. So then I just have to peel it open a little bit to get access to that small panel where the adhesive is going to go. I want to align the latch. So that's how I get good placement on this. I want to make sure that the loop of the lid comes down right over the top of that latch on the base. And then I just press that against that exposed adhesive. Okay, moment of truth. Let's open up this card and see what happens. The lid is going to lift off and to the left. Okay, so right now the upper platform is being strained so that when the lid comes up, it's tilting basically to the left. You can see if I try and bring it back, it probably won't stay that way because it really is a matter of my lower platform and all the weight on it is pulling my upper platform, and then it is not staying straight. So you can see there if you look from the side, see how bowed my first platform is? It works. I could leave this alone. One thing that's nice about the lid popping up this way is that I get to see more of the internal treasure. But if I want the lid to pop up a little straighter, then I'm going to have to stiffen up that under platform. So I've decided to do that just with a piece of the same pattern paper. I've just cut it to fit inside that platform. You can use the die for that. You can just cut the pattern paper with the die and then snip out the section that's going to fit inside that long box. And what that'll do is it'll just make that section of the platform a little stronger so that it doesn't bow so much to the left and it stays a little straighter. And that's definitely just an aesthetic choice. So you can decide whether you want to stiffen up that platform and make it stay a little straighter, or whether you want to just leave it to bow like that so that the lid flies off a little bit further. Okay, time to start decorating. I'm going to start with the ship's wheel charm from our cruise charms set. I'm going to snip off the little hole at the top because I'm not using it as a charm for this card. The ship's wheel, I think, is going to go somewhere where it can disguise the mechanism a little bit in the closed position. And I've decided to add it to that little triangle because then I'm also going to get some motion. So placement's going to be important on this so that it doesn't hang anything up. So I'm going to start with just a little tape runner in one spoke of my ship's wheel and then just go in there and attach it to that triangle and see what happens. And as I see, it's going to spin down, and actually that ends up being a great position. And I just want to make sure that I'm not causing any kind of catch points or bending too many of my spokes or anything in that process. But that looks like a really good position. I hit it on the first try. So now I'll just go in and put some glue behind that and make it permanent. The treasure chest includes a little lock and key die, so I've cut those and then I'm going to glue them onto the front so that the end of the lock actually goes through that loop on the base of the treasure chest. And then back to my cruise charms again, I'll add the anchor and chain to the right side of the treasure chest, and just making sure that I place it in a position where it stays in the card when the card is closed. For the front of the card, I'll just add a little skinny strip of the same pattern paper. For a greeting, I've chosen Congrats out of word set 8, and I've die cut that twice out of the brown cardstock and out of glitter cardstock, and then I'm going to glue those two pieces together. As I do that, I am going to have the brown one a little bit offset from the glitter one so that it can act as a shadow. And then I'm also putting a little bit of an arc in the word as I glue them together so that it'll fit a little bit nicer behind the treasure chest. I was hoping that with an arc put into the letters that I would be able to have it fit within the width of the treasure chest, but I can see that it's still going to be a little too wide. But that's okay, I have a solution for that. So I'm just going to get it so that most of the Congrats is covered by the treasure chest in the closed position. And then for that left-hand side, I just have to figure out some treasure to glue to the treasure chest that will disguise the C. The treasure chest die set does include some treasure, but another great add-on is the treasure charms, and I will be using several of those today on this card. So I've decided this is going to be a money card, so I've folded my bill into fourths, and then I'm going to fold in 2 corners at the bottom. Then I'm taking a thin strip of any old cardstock, because this will not be visible, just to make a belly band that will fit snugly around that folded in section of the money. So I like this method for adding money to the treasure chest card because then it's just the belly band that's attached to the card, not the money. They can just slide the money right out and then the card itself still looks great for display. And then as I glue my belly band to the back of the treasure chest, I just want to make sure that the money stays within the chest. So I may have to move it to find a good position. And then like I say, it's super easy to just pull the money right out. Okay, from here it's just decorating, so I used a mix of the treasure that comes included with the treasure chest as well as those treasure charms to fill in the chest itself. I also added a few pieces in the background of the card, and then the last piece I'm going to put on is the ruby necklace from the treasure charms. And my idea is to add that to the other triangle so that I will also get movement on that piece. but because you do get that motion, you do have to pay attention to placement. So the ruby necklace is a little bit tall. I have to make sure that as it closes that the ruby itself doesn't cross the fold of the card and bend. So just making sure that I've placed that so that it can slide closed. There wasn't much room on the inside of the card for a place for a signature, so I decided to add one of our crosshatch rectangles. I embellished that with the crown from the treasure chest, put that on the back of the card. My finished card measures 5.5 by 4.25, so that's just a standard A2 for envelope size. I do think the treasure chest works particularly well for graduation cards and congratulatory cards, but then also for anniversary or just general love, or you are a treasure to me, or I treasure you. Maybe you're going to put a photograph where the money is instead, and then when it opens up, it could be a treasured memory. In the description box below this YouTube video, you will find a link to the blog post and all of the supply links. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can find out information about purchasing these dies, as well as links to all my other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.